You claim Angie was murdered in the empty room, and then moved to the lab?
Yes.
Then how do you explain the large amount of blood in the lab? It may be possible to carry a body, but blood cannot be moved.
That's a good point.
I think she was still alive after the attack in the empty room.
Oh. Well, that works too.
She was killed after she was carried to her lab.
Oh, yeah, the blow to the head first. Yeah. Forehead injury.
This is it! The fatal wound was a cut to the back of her neck from the katana. But she also showed signs of blunt force trauma, and I think I know why. After Angie was knocked unconscious in the empty room, she was killed in her lab.
Oh, so maybe that was just an accident. So maybe it was Kyo that killed both. Like but why did Kyo want to kill Tenko? I still don't understand that. I guess just because he wanted to.
I see. So that puddle of blood is from the killing blow.
Had nothing to do with Tenko herself.
Ha! It's all clear now. Angie was attacked in the empty room, carried to her lab, and it was there that the culprit finished her off.
All clear. This is all clear.
It's pretty clear.
What are you all talking about? All clear? What is all clear?
Gonna keep repeating yourself?
What are you? All clear?
Apparently.
What are you all? You what? What are? I will not fear. I will not back down. Sweet Korekio, calm yourself. Their words are all hollow. There is no meaning to any of them.
What? What?
You must teach these ignorant children a lesson. Yes, you're right.
So that's his sister, I guess.
I'll teach them.
What the hell are you mumbling about?
It was
You're giving me the goddamn willies!
always her, and she lost her brother and sort of took his personality? One way or the other.
Not yet. Nothing is clear at all. It's full of doubts, of mysteries, of a dense, impenetrable fog!
The most interesting character.
Nothing is clear at all!
Okay, Korekio. Bottle showdown again.
Angie was
Nice
attacked in the empty room first. And then carried into the research lab? Impossible! Impossible! That's nothing but a delusion! You intend to poison our minds with your delusions?
Yes.
It's no delusion. Angie's 2 external wounds tell the story. After she was struck in the empty room, she was carried to the art research lab and then killed.
You say the culprit carried Angie's body? And not a single drop of blood fell? The hallway and empty room had no bloodstains. Even if you wipe them down later, there'd still be traces of evidence left behind. But there was no evidence anywhere, was there, Shuichi?
Okay, what glue would that be? Duct tape?
There'd still be traces of evidence left behind. But there was no evidence anywhere, was there, Shuichi?
I'll cut through your words! There was evidence left at the scene. The bloody tape under Angie's body.
I was starting to think maybe it was just an accident.
What?
There was bloody tape, so that implies someone forced it.
It was wrapped around her head to stop the bleeding while she was being carried.
Oh, she could have wrecked it herself.
Bloody tape? Gonta didn't notice at all.
It was under the body. It's most likely evidence the culprit should have gotten rid of. But since it was hidden, the culprit didn't notice and failed to dispose of it.
It must have fallen as the fatal blow was dealt, and ended up under her body.
It must have been Atua who did that for us.
What? Atua? How long are you going to keep that up?
Now we know most of the mystery behind Angie's murder.
I'm convinced there's only one person who could have killed Angie.
So, are we saying Kyo? Oh, I guess we'll just go Kyo.
It has to be you!
I feel like it could have been Angie.
It's you, Kyo. You killed Angie.
What the fuck? So it's true!
Well, that was obvious. Such a boring, obvious answer.
You killed both of them. Why? Why did you kill them?
In terms of pure logic, only one victim was necessary to win.
Why? Why you killed them both?
I think one of the murders was an accident.
Yeah.
An accident?
That's right. It wasn't part of the plan.
Huh? Which one?
Angie.
That's it! Angie's murder was an accident.
What? Tenko wasn't accident?
You thought that was a possibility?
That's right. Kyo originally planned to kill someone with a seesaw trick. But while he was making preparations in the empty room, Angie walked in. So he decided to kill her in order to keep her from talking.
She just happened to walk in on the culprit setting up and was killed.
Then he should have just stopped there. Once he killed Angie, there was no reason for him to kill Tenko.
You only needed to kill one for this game. Killing two is pointless. If you get bonus points for killing more, then sure. Otherwise, it leaves more clues behind.
Bonus points.
Why, Kyo? Why you kill two of our friends?
What on earth are you talking about? No, I'm not the culprit. So, why is everyone looking at me like I am?
So is split personality a theme? So I just realized that there was also the killer in the previous game. The actual serial killer who ended up surviving the whole game. With the scissors.
Why? Why are they? Why is it?
With the first game.
Calm yourself, Korekio.
Korekio.
Yes. You mustn't raise your voice. You mustn't stutter. You mustn't lose composure. You mustn't become flustered. You mustn't waver. Look at their horrid faces. This sorry lot is not worth agonizing over. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
There he goes again. What the hell's wrong with him?
It almost seems like he's talking with someone. Someone? He's just talking to himself. And why the hell is he wearing lipstick?
No matter how loudly you protest, this is a trivial matter. I will never acknowledge your allegations. Not a single one of them. For you see, there is no evidence that I killed Angie.
We don't need evidence though. We just know.
No, I will not acknowledge it. I will only acknowledge facts, true events. I won't acknowledge fiction, mystery. I won't acknowledge your deductions or guesses. Well said. Good job, Korekio. Yes, thanks.
Creeps me the fuck out!
No evidence. There's no evidence that he killed Angie?
You're wrong. There is evidence.
Evidence.
What? You do realize bluffs like that won't work, yes?
The weapon that was used to knock Angie unconscious in the empty room. That weapon tells us the whole story, Kyo.
That's not possible. I think you may have misunderstood. Apologize. Come on, apologize. 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 Come on. Apologize.
So they're about to take off.
Apologize. 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 Apologize.
Seriously, what the hell's happening?
No idea what's happening with Kyo. I know what weapon he used on Angie. We'll have to prove it to them. Oh, that's a...
I have nothing to admit. You are simply wrong.
Oops.
Yes, I'm not the culprit. So I have nothing to confess. I have no...
Okay, good enough, I guess.
Why must you force your delusions on us? Your logic. That's merely a delusion. Well said, Korekio. To continue this...
I'm using a PS4 controller, and it's been a while since I've played any game, so I need to keep remembering which buttons correlate to what. So that's A, X is A, B, it's A, B, X, Y.
Bait is meaningless. Why must you force your delusions on us? Why must you force your delusions on us? I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me! Korekio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot. Apologize. 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 I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you...
I don't know if I can lose that. I guess run out of time. But
You have no proof that Korekio is the killer.
3, move, 4, 4.
It ends here!
Okay, definitely male body.
Kyo hit Angie with the same floorboard used in the seesaw trick.
There's Kyo with his sister's split personality, if she existed in the first place. He did say she died, but...
I see. And how do you know the floorboard was the murder weapon?
There was a small patch of dried blood on the underside of the floorboard.
Angie's blood?
Blood that spattered there when the culprit struck Angie with the board. But that's not the only evidence that she was hit with that floorboard. There's also the blood stain under the floor to consider. For that to be, the floorboard must not have been in place at the time of the attack.
Good point. I did not actually consider that. Because Tenko's blood was dripping through, so I assume same with Angie.
Good point. Had the floorboard been in place, her blood wouldn't have splattered beneath it.
Oh, it was a full-on splatter, not just drip. Okay.
Kyo's earlier confession is further evidence that the floorboard was used.
How?
If the weapon used to hit Angie is the floorboard from the seesaw trick,
It means the culprit knew about the seesaw, so the same person killed Tenko and Angie.
Damn it, Kyo. You were my friend. My first friend. I guess like good that I became friends with him first before poisoning him.
I believe that while Kyo was setting up the seesaw, he was holding the board when Angie walked in.
Couldn't have just come up with an excuse?
And a cold cocked
reactor with a floorboard!
Well, I guess if he was going to use it for murder, she would have known.
All you can do now is accept it. You even confessed to Tenko's murder already.
So it's true. This is the truth.
Looks like we're almost at the end. All right, Shuichi, I'll leave the finale to you. Bring down the house.
Shuichi, please, put an end to this. For Angie and Tenko's sake. End this class trial.
I understand. I'll go over everything one more time. Kyo, I want you to confess. No, I will force you to confess.
Yeah. Who was the culprit? I saw. Well, what panels do we have? It's sliding walk. Let's go do that one. How do I... There we are. Remove the katana. Wouldn't be that one, would it? Oh, who's effigy? A weapon. Oh. Small stone Himiko brought. The forward. Try out the first one. And the second one. Path made of salt. And the culprit. Nope. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Steps contaminating the scene. It's the last one. Use lockpicking. That's probably this one. Stabbed Kade's effigy. Uchi extinguishes the flame. Yeah. Pew, 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 pew. Okay. Murder solved.
This is the truth of the case!
It's freaking Kia. Act 1.
Let's look back at the first murder. It was late last night. The culprit was in the empty room on the 4th floor. The culprit was preparing the seance murder they had planned. To use the floorboard as a seesaw, they had to cut the crosspiece supporting it. The plan was to make the same preparations for all 3 empty rooms. This would divert suspicion away from the culprit and whoever picked a room. To cut the crosspieces, they needed a saw. I imagine they got one from the warehouse.
It would have sucked if we didn't see the other rooms tampered with. Guess that was Kikichi.
They were planning to cut the crosspieces in all 3 rooms.
La-di-da-di-da.
However, when the culprit was working on the middle room, the unexpected happened. Angie walked into that room and saw the culprit making their preparations. She needed some fire for the ritual and had gone to the room for a candle. At that point, the culprit had not finished the setup and was just cutting crosspieces. Angie might not have concluded that it was tied to some kind of murder plan. But now that Angie had seen it, the culprit couldn't use the seesaw trick.
They're always vibrating. Kia,
Any other person might have just given up. but not our culprit. The culprit took the floorboard they loosened and struck the unsuspecting Angie in the head. The culprit did not want to give up on their plan and had to improvise. They wrapped duct tape around Angie's injury to stop the bleeding. Then they picked up her unconscious body and carried her to a research lab. While she was unconscious, the culprit hurried to tie up this loose end. But because they were in a hurry, they made a crucial oversight. They didn't notice the duct tape had peeled off and was under Angie's body. Without that evidence, we may never have figured out the culprit's trick. Carrying the supplies they needed, the culprit returned to the ultimate art lab. Locked the front door from inside. And took out the katana they brought from their own lab. They then stabbed Angie in the back of the neck, finally killing her.
I didn't realize just how brutal Angie's murder was.
Then, to further confuse us, the culprit attempted to make a locked room mystery. First, they used rope from the warehouse and hung 4 effigies upside down.
I mean, luckily she was unconscious, but you just stabbed her in the back of the neck.
There were
you knocked
2
out.
reasons
That's
for
just...
this. To overwhelm the room with an occult atmosphere. And the other was the key to locking the room.
Yeah.
The culprit stuck the katana into Kaede's effigy near the rear entrance.
I mean, I still think Tenko's is worse when we get to that. But...
And spun the effigy around to twist up the rope. After enough turns, the culprit let go and headed for the rear door.
At least hopefully for Tenko it was instant.
Once released, the effigy began spinning, and the gold leaf katana with it. The handle of the katana then hit the sliding lock, locking the door. A difficult trick, but remember that the lock was so loose it moved at the slightest touch. The culprit also would have had the opportunity to attempt it many times. Once complete, the door was locked, but the duct tape was left behind.
About to say, why is his stomach glowing? But... showing the duct.
Perhaps the culprit noticed it, but by that point, it was too late. The room was sealed. There was no way for them to get back inside.
You see Kikichi's lockpicking skills.
Then, this morning, we opened up the room and discovered Angie's body. But the culprit wasn't finished. They wanted one more murder. To do that, they manipulated us into performing this seance. Of the 3 empty rooms, the middle one was chosen for the seance. I was invited by Kokichi to take Kibo's place in the seance.
That's right. I knew Kibo was involved somehow.
Tenko volunteered to be the medium, but she never imagined it would get her killed.
Oh yeah, she did volunteer. He didn't really pick her. So he didn't really care about her, just wanted to kill someone.
To perform the seance, the culprit claimed they needed something for Tenko. A small stone that Himiko had brought from the courtyard. Tenko, at the culprit's request, bowed her head until it was touching the stone. That position was instrumental in making sure the murder went as planned. Next, Kokichi and I placed the iron cage over Tenko, in the middle of the magic circle.
How Himiko threw that cage off by herself is still something I want to answer.
The culprit then volunteered to drape the white cloth over the iron cage. We didn't realize it at the time, but that was a deliberate decision by the culprit. They needed to set up the murder weapon that was used to kill Tenko. While they were covering the cage with a cloth, they secretly placed the sickle.
Somehow exactly stayed in place.
Finally, 4 of us placed the wooden statue on top of the cage. The culprit used the weight of the statue to keep the murder weapon in place. After the preparations were complete, we began the seance.
I mean, the murder was so convoluted, literally, only Kyo could have come up with it.
In complete darkness, we each stood in one corner and sang the Caged Child song. When the song finished, the soul of the dead was supposed to enter the medium, but our culprit had another plan: to commit a murder in the darkness. Right after we started singing, the culprit began making their way toward Tenko. It would have been quite difficult to do in total darkness, but our culprit had a guide. They used the lines of the magic circle drawn with salt.
At least, I mean, I'm hoping they give him at least some motivation.
The culprit felt for the salt and used it to guide them along.
At the moment, he has zero connection to Tenko or Angie as to...
And when the culprit reached the center of the circle...
No, they both just picked at random.
They found the floorboard that had its crosspiece cut off the night before. Then lifted up their foot and stomped down hard on the floorboard. The floorboard lifted up like a seesaw and pushed Tenko's body up toward the ceiling of the cage. Tenko was stabbed in the back of the neck by the sickle on the top of the cage. She was killed right before our eyes, and we didn't even see it.
Like, surely, like, just poisoning someone or something would be much harder to
After
solve.
committing the crime, the culprit followed the salt back to their corner. Finished the ritual, and had us light the candles. We followed the culprit's directions and removed the equipment used for the seance. And discovered Tenko's body. And while we were all focused on the body, and dropped it under the floor through the hole in the corner of the room. Ironically, the final step of the murder was unwittingly carried out by us. The culprit had planned the murder so that we would unintentionally destroy some evidence. That evidence was the magic circle that the culprit used to navigate in the dark. However, the culprit didn't know that Kibo had taken a picture. He really saved us. Without that, we wouldn't know what changes were made to the circle. But now we know for certain, and we know the culprit drew the magic circle.
Just the dialogue in this game.
Korekio Shinguji, the ultimate anthropologist. You're the culprit behind these murders.
Complete.